Hello, this is Keith, welcoming you to the 1973rd edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline the 2nd of October 2014. The readers this week are Janet, Colin and Keith, with Robin and Jason on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Brilli, Ferdinand Bouillon and Harry Breur. It's performed by Jean-Jacques Perry and is used with his kind permission. Local stories include Beat the Bad Guys and I Thought I Would Lose My Leg. Just the usual news items this week. The Enfield Macular Disease Support Group meets on the second Wednesday of every month from 10 a.m. to 12 noon at the Trinity Church Hall, Gentleman's Row, Enfield EN2 6AN. The meetings are open to anyone affected by central vision loss. Carers are welcome too. For further details, please contact Alan Newson on 020 8886 5659. That's Alan Newson on 020 886 5659. The Home Library Service is part of Enfield Libraries and provides a delivery service to people living in the borough who are unable to visit a branch library due to age, mobility, disability or their caring responsibilities. We visit each of our members every 4 weeks. The service is free and we will tailor it to your taste. For visually impaired people, we can provide books in large print or recorded books on CD or cassette. We can also bring music on CD or films on DVD for people with some vision. Members are free to reserve particular items. If you would like to join the Home Library Service or know someone who would, please call 01992 716 010 and we will arrange for the Community Access Librarian to visit you. That number again, 01992 716 010. If you're experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. She is your listener's representative and she will be pleased to help you. That's Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. Now Janet will read the first item of local news.
A councillor is leading calls for police to clamp down on antisocial behaviour on a stretch of road that borders Haringey and Enfield. Alan Sitkin, councillor for Bowes Ward, is rallying residents and shopkeepers on Green Lanes, Palmer's Green, just south of the North Circular, to band together so that the bad guys don't win. The Cabinet Member for Economic Regeneration posted on Community Forum Bows and Bounds Connected, echoing residents' calls for more needs to be done to tackle suspected back-alley drug dealing and loitering off roads that stretch across the border area between Enfield and Haringey. Mr. Sitkin revealed to the Advertiser that the scourge of antisocial behaviour has been close to his heart since he had a knife pulled on him one evening, but he would not reveal if the incident happened out inside the borough. The baddies should not win. I refuse to be afraid. He explained that because the area lies in what is termed as edgelands on the border of two boroughs, some of its needs slip through the net, as agencies are sometimes uncertain about where exactly Haringey begins and Enfield ends. There is activity going on in this area in the dead of night that needs to be tackled. I can understand the residents who come to me and say they do not feel safe. Antisocial behaviour, where you don't quite know who is doing what and when they hang around outside a shop, creates a sense of fear that spreads throughout the whole community. And he feels that the only way for the residents who come to him to feel safe again is if police numbers are dramatically boosted in the area. Over the last year, police numbers throughout Enfield have dropped dramatically, and now that the only 24-hour police station in Enfield is Edmonton, the police have to come from much further away to tackle any problem. He said, in an ideal world, the council would have powers over the local police in the same way the Mayor of London controls the Met. However, Detective Superintendent Paul Healy of Enfield Police is adamant that everything is being done throughout the borough and that no one has made them aware of a specific problem in this area. We are unaware of any specific antisocial behaviour issues on Bowes Ward. We are happy to discuss any concerns that the councillor may have at a time that is convenient to him. As a borough, we have achieved a reduction of 24% in relation to antisocial behaviour for the last 12 months. Southgate Police Station is an operational police station with neighbourhood officers based at this location.
A mother feared she would lose her leg after being bitten by what is believed to have been a false widow spider. Shireen Larson of Enfield Town saw her leg swell to almost twice its normal size and needed hospital treatment after being bitten in the beer garden of the Crown and Horseshoe pub in Horseshoe Lane, Enfield. The infection caused vomiting and Miss Larson's leg turned black and yellow with bulbous blisters. Speaking to the Independent, Miss Larson said she felt a tingling and then a numbness in her leg before the infection took hold. She said, "I was sitting in the beer garden while my daughter and my friend's child were playing, and I felt a sharp bite on my leg. I brushed the spider off immediately, and my legs started to go numb and felt itchy. My condition deteriorated, and I started vomiting, and huge blisters swelled up on my leg. The bite is the second known incident of a venomous spider attack in Enfield. In January, a girl feared she would lose her arm after being bitten in Cineworld Cinema in Southbury Road. Despite being given antibiotics, Miss Larson's condition soon worsened, with her leg doubling in size. She said, "I had to go to the hospital. I was completely petrified. I thought I was going to lose my leg or something worse because of the bite. At the hospital, the bed was not working properly, so I had to prop up my leg with a stool, which meant I had a very uncomfortable night's sleep. Still struggling to walk, Miss Larson is now out of hospital and has been prescribed 10 different types of medication. However, Miss Larson said she could not be sure if the spider was a false widow, Britain's most venomous spider. The Stiado nobilis, or false widow spider, resembles the venomous black widow. It is native to the Canary Islands, where it is thought to have spread across Europe and into the UK. The sting is similar to a wasp or bee sting, but can lead to a swelling and blisters in very rare cases. Miss Larson added, "I don't know if it was a false widow or not, but the people at the hospital said they had never seen a bite like it before. It was a small dark brown or black spider, but it was hard to tell because it was night time. I am originally from Zimbabwe, and I've seen all sorts of spiders, but this is the first in this country. You can still see the bite on my leg even now. I think people should be made aware that these spiders are out there in Enfield, and people should be on the lookout."
Mourners gathered for the funeral of a great-grandmother who was beheaded outside her Edmonton home earlier this month. Palmyra Silva, 82, died after she was attacked by a man wielding a knife in Nightingale Road on September the 4th. Friends and family gathered outside the family cafe, Silva's, in Church Street, Edmonton, before a hearse lined with flowers drew up and led the mourners to St Edmund's Church in Hertford Road. Ian McTaggart, who knew Mrs Silva for 29 years and was a regular customer in the cafe, told the Advertiser, "We've lost a wonderful lady who was part of our life. A piece of our life has been taken away by her not being here now. She affected so many people's lives. In the whole time I knew her, I never once heard her raise her voice. When something like this happens, the community comes together. She was such a lovely lady. When this type of thing happens, it shows that the world really is getting worse." Mrs Silva, a widow, had worked in the cafe for 40 years and had stopped working there full-time only recently. Mr McTaggart's wife, Barbara, believed the attack had occurred on one of the few days that Mrs Silva had off from the cafe, and described her as an angel. "She was such a lovely lady," she said. "She was a real mama to everyone. That's what everyone called her. She was just such a warm person. Scores of people paid their respects, and grief-stricken family members wept as they walked behind the hearse with flowers. On the day Mrs. Silver was attacked, armed police stormed down Nightingale Road after they had been alerted by a neighbour that a man was attacking an animal with a knife in one of the back gardens in the street. They streamed into the street in a desperate bid to evacuate women and children from houses in which they feared the attacker might be seeking refuge. They were able to subdue the man they suspected of attacking Mrs. Silver after cornering him in a house in the street and discharging a taser to disarm him. A 25-year-old man, Nicholas Salvador, has been charged with the murder of Mrs. Silver.
Two brothers have opened a vintage-inspired coffee shop after discovering a treasure trove of valuable antiques. Joseph and Franco Zuvani refused to part with the abandoned relics they found stored away in the loft of the property in Chayside, Southgate, which they had decided to transform into a cafe. While they were cleaning out the property to get ready for the launch of their venture, the two came across posters, ledgers, and even stained glass windows, which revealed that the property had once been the headquarters of Claude W. Dennis, the man who almost single-handedly developed Southgate. And in honour of his achievements, the brothers have dedicated the business to preserving his memory, and even named the cafe in his honour, keeping the artefacts to kit out the shop with an authentic vintage vibe. Joseph said Starbucks wanted to buy the place, but then we found all of this, and we're not the type of people to just sell it on, so we found a place for everything so that we can keep history of Southgate alive. Mr. Dennis, an architect and property developer, was involved in the reconstruction of the Square Mile in Southgate in 1942, and designed the building that houses the gym, LA Fitness, in Winchmore Hill Road, as well as the eponymous Dennis Parade. He died aged 67 in 1953 of bronchial pneumonia. The brothers said people who recognised the name had approached them with stories of how Mr. Dennis had built and sold them their homes, including one woman who showed them her title deed from 1933. Joseph said he was the ultimate local man. We are aware that there are big national chains opening left, right and centre, but in 5 years and beyond, we intend to stick around and keep being part of Southgate's local heritage and history, the same way Claude W. Dennis was. He added, our shop fitting team are from Enfield, the wood is all purchased locally from Enfield, and our logo designer, printer, CCTV and alarm companies are also all from Enfield. Our goods come in fresh every morning from a local mother and daughter who run a small baking business.
Tottenham Hotspur is planning to transform a former farm in Enfield's Green Belt into accommodation for players. Spurs opened a state-of-the-art training facility in Balls Cross in 2012. Since the multi-million-pound facility, including pitches, gyms and conditioning suites, was created, residents living around the training ground have become increasingly concerned about the club's perceived encroachment onto Greenbelt land. Earlier this year, residents were furious after the club was granted permission by Enfield Council to erect spectator seating in the grounds. Now the club could be on the verge of antagonising residents once again with the announcement that it is planning to turn Middleton Farm in Balls Cross into accommodation. A spokesman for the club told the Advertiser, we can confirm that we intend to submit a planning application to the London Borough of Enfield for an overnight accommodation lodge for players and staff. The application is for Middleton Farm, which the club has owned since 2008 and which sits adjacent to the training centre. We are working hard with consultants to design a scheme that is both highly sustainable and sympathetic to its environment. We are meeting residents and local groups to discuss the emerging design.
The landlord determined to get the council's proposed licensing scheme for the private rented sector scrapped will launch a legal challenge. On Thursday, Konstantinos Rigas will apply for a judicial review of Enfield Council's additional and selective licensing initiative, under which private landlords will have to obtain a £500 5-year licence from the local authority to cover each property they own. The council believes that drawing up a landlord's register will tackle antisocial behaviour, poor standards of homes, overcrowding and missed rubbish collections. However, Mr Rigas, who owns just one property in the borough, denies there is a connection between the private rented sector and antisocial behaviour in Enfield. He said, antisocial behaviour by tenants is often linked to problems like rent arrears, so landlords already have every incentive to deal with issues when they arise. The council has failed to demonstrate that housing in the borough is badly managed, or that there is a clear link between antisocial behaviour and the private rented sector. Mr Rigas initially intended to represent himself, but now he has instructed solicitor Alex Peebles of Irwin Mitchell LLP and Richard Clayton QC of King's Chambers. Mr Rigas, who describes himself as an expert in policy scrutiny, is calling on landlords and letting agents to help fund his legal challenge by contributing £50 per property they own, 1/5 of what it would cost a landlord to obtain a licence for a property if he or she qualifies for the scheme's early bird discount. He added, I have put the council on notice that we have a strong basis for our case on grounds of irrationality, unlawfulness, impropriety and unreasonableness. We are adding a further ground showing a contravention of European law. In order to secure a licence, landlords have to ensure that sufficient health and safety measures are in place, as well as procedures to deal with antisocial behaviour and environmental crime. A council spokesman said, the council is defending the claim. It would be prejudicial to disclose details of the defence at this stage. The hearing will take place at the Royal Courts of Justice. If the judge grants permission, a full judicial review will be heard later this year.
A man is on a mission to revolutionise the way maths is taught in schools. There's a picture of a chap sort of dressed up with numbers, big and small, all over his shirt, and the children have numbers on their shirt as well, so I don't know quite what he's going to do. And we'll never know, probably. Known as Isaac Anoon, when outside the classroom, the maths enthusiast holds special half-day or full-day sessions to help Year 6 pupils achieve top sets results. Mr Anoon's unique way of teaching maths struck a chord with pupils at Rainham Primary School in Edmonton, where Mr Numvervator donned his trusty costume to help teach children. He told the Independent his passion for the subject stems from his first ever maths lesson more than 40 years ago. He said, I still remember my first ever lesson, even to this day. It was with a woman called Gertrude Tate, and the way she taught maths in the classroom had me captivated for every lesson. Her passion is something that has inspired me to continue what she used to teach in this way. A teacher for more than 30 years, Mr Numvervator has appeared on television presenting his own maths programme to captivate young viewers. Turning his attention to Enfield for the past 5 years, he believes pupils in the borough are special and have great potential. He said children in Enfield are fantastic. It's been an honour teaching so many of them, but there's more that can be done. I would love to have my own maths hub where schools could bring their pupils for a fantastic day of learning about maths. People's perception of maths and science have changed since I started working, and pupils are not always interested, but I think we can change that, and it can start in Enfield.
Detailed plans for the extensive redevelopment of Chase Farm Hospital have been laid out now. Speaking exclusively to the Advertiser, Andrew Paniker, Director of Capital and Estates at the Royal Free London NHS Foundation Trust, which took over the running of the hospital in the Ridgeway, Enfield in July, said that the new look Chase Farm would be iconic and flexible in design. The Trust is aiming to retain only the hospital's Highlands wing, a multi-storey car park, while demolishing and completely rebuild will have a maximum height of 4 stories, and managers are aiming to keep all services running while building work goes on. We want to see the development of an iconic hospital, flexible in design and adaptable, so that it is able to stand the test of time, said Mr. Paniker. We need to be able to respond to changes. For example, if there is increased demand for elective surgery in the future, the proposed design will allow us to build more theatres. All services are set out under the Barnet, Enfield and Haringey clinical strategy, which was approved by health commissioners last year, would be retained, the Trust said. These include rehabilitation services, elective surgery, an urgent care centre, outpatient maternity services, an older people's assessment unit and paediatric assessment unit. The Trust will receive $263 million in transitional funding over the next 5 years and is planning to invest between $108 million and $120 million in the Chase Farm site, funded partly by the sale of land. It plans to sell off roughly 2/3 of the site with planning permission for a housing development and a 3-form entry primary school expected to raise between $30 million and $40 million. Mr. Paniker added, "We want to see a residential development that the Royal Free can be proud of, with a good community feel and sense of place. It will be a mix of private, affordable and social housing." The Trust expects to submit a planning application to Enfield Council next month and is hoping to be granted consent in the spring. It is planning to start initial works in the spring and the main building work in the summer of 2016. All works are expected to be complete by spring 2018.
Enfield Council has defended plans to charge fees of more than £50 for families needing new wheelie bins. It is currently free to ask for a new wheelie bin or to exchange an existing bin for another in a more suitable size. However, the Council is now proposing a charge of just over £50. Families moving into new homes with bins of an unsuitable size face the charge on top of other bills and general moving costs. Joanne Laban, the Council's shadow cabinet member for the environment, described the proposals as absolutely ludicrous. These cost-cutting measures are counterintuitive because they will lead to people dumping more bulky items such as mattresses, tables and chairs. The Council will then have to spend more money on fly-tip crews to pick up the extra rubbish. She also criticised the Labour-run Council for the increase in bulky waste collection fees, which she claims will exacerbate the problem further. However, the Council has insisted that the charges are necessary to cover rising costs of waste disposal, coupled with cuts in funding from central government. A Council spokeswoman told the Advertiser, "Difficult decisions are having to be made as a result of the scale of the funding cuts we face from central government. This proposal is part of a package of measures designed to make the savings required to balance the budget, while at the same time protecting our excellent frontline council services."
A boy who is battling a debilitating liver disease raised more than £150 for charity as thanks for his determination to make his dreams come true. Football fan Nathan Thomas, 11, from Waltham Cross, baked a Samuel Eto'o cake in honour of his football idol. Nathan was diagnosed in September last year with a liver disease. In January, Make-A-Wish UK, a charity which makes wishes come true for children battling life-threatening conditions, arranged for Nathan to meet the Cameroonian football star. Nathan decided to show his gratitude by getting involved in the charity's Bake-A-Wish Challenge, which has been running for the past 5 years in partnership with Craft Bakers Week. Participants raise money to help sick children by holding community bake sales and cake competitions. With the help of Dorrington's Family Bakery, Nathan made a colourful multi-tiered cake in honour of the footballer, who is currently with Everton, topped with a tiny figure. The cake was auctioned for an impressive £186. Nathan's mother, Debbie, said, "When Nathan met Samuel, he was speechless, but so happy. It was the most wonderful moment that we will remember forever. We had so much fun baking Nathan's wish and encourage others to get involved with Bake-A-Wish. As well as children, schools and companies also take part in Bake-A-Wish, and I must say that cake looks jolly good."
Some of the borough's wealthiest residents have been told to sort out their plumbing or face prosecution if their homes are not connected properly to the sewage system. Environmental charity Thames 21 has urged Thames Water to conduct a survey of properties in Seaforth Gardens, Branscombe Gardens and part of Broad Walk, Winchmore Hill. The charity believes that so-called misconnections, which sometimes result in household waste being flushed straight into waterways instead of the foul water drain, have led to pollution of the boating lake in adjacent Grovelands Park. The rainwater drains at houses in these roads are linked to a stream in the park. Amy Phillip, project manager of the Salmons Brook Healthy River Scheme at Thames 21, said that 7 misconnections have been found in the area so far. About 10% of homes in London are misconnected and therefore polluting their local stream, lake or river, she told the Advertiser. It's the homeowner's responsibility to rectify these problems. Most people get on with the right way, as of course most people don't want to be polluting. However, sadly, Thames Water has yet to gain access to 5 properties in this part of Winchmore Hill. This could be because the occupants are away, or maybe refusing entry. If they are polluters, they are sending their wastewater into the streams, ruining them for wildlife and their enjoyment by others. Residents who have not sorted out their plumbing properly will have their details passed on by Thames Water to Enfield Council, which will serve enforcement notices and prosecute if needed. Last year, residents living around Pims Park Lake in Edmonton were warned by the council to check their plumbing. The council said it had received 63 referrals related to misconnections near Pims Park, 71% of which have been remedied. To date, 10 enforcement notices have been served, but there has been no need to gain warrants or issue summonses to protect householders. Chris Bond, Cabinet Member for Environment and Community Safety, added, "Where we have needed to take enforcement action, the vast majority of homeowners cooperate fully and help us resolve this issue promptly."
We have now reached the end of side 1 of this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side 2.